And we are
We're running
live now. Hello.
We're running late, but sounding
Hello.
great. Hello, everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I haven't got much more to say. We've been chatting for a while now.
Yeah, we've been chatting for 41 minutes now.
What we talked about off air, we've talked about Turkish superstars, Bollywood.
Oh yeah.
I was
Larry
singing
Grayson.
Christmas songs.
Larry Graceman.
Grayson. Yeah.
And that's it. That's it.
Baggy 3 trailer. Watch that. It's good stuff.
Yeah, there you go.
I must have been away for that.
No,
It's a bit disjointed, but Andrew, what was the thing you've been waiting to talk about all week about Star Trek?
It's all I've been able to talk about. No, it's only because I've been rewatching Star Trek Voyager just for reasons.
Which one's this now?
That's
with Patrick Stewart.
No, that's 2 more on from Patrick Stewart. So you had Star Trek the original series TOS, which you're
TOS,
on,
yeah.
and sort of you also have the animated TAS, which is the original series cast but doing voices for a cartoon.
Is that still canon?
It's counted, yeah, because there are a couple of
there's
a couple of references in later series that make it canon, but so I think it is regarded as canon, but it's not. It's sort of like stepchild canon. It's not quite.
Yeah. It's Star Wars Holiday Special. It's a bit like.
Yeah, but that is canon.
I know technically, yeah. They mention Life Day in something Solo. I think they mention Life
Right,
Day
so go on.
Anyhow, yeah. So from Star Trek, after the original crew, you then had Star Trek: The Next Generation, which is the one with Patrick Stewart, which is where he got you to watch Code of Honor with the racist episode. You then had Deep Space Nine, which was set on a space station, which definitely didn't rip off Babylon 5. And then you have because J. Michael Straczynski took his pitch and series Bible and everything to them to Paramount for Babylon 5, and they were like, "Oh, it's not really for us." Hey, we've got a new Star Trek show set on a space station that we just came up with coincidentally. And then you have Voyager, so they call it the Next Generation era because they all are very loosely connected. So for example, Deep Space Nine, the pilot has the Enterprise, Picard's Enterprise, at the station helping it start up. There are crossover episodes,
like jump starting the engine with it's got the leads on it.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, and then
it's a backdoor pilot kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's the backdoor pilot, but they sort of cross over a bit.
Yeah, there's a bit of handing the torch, and then they all slightly overlapped. So I think Next Generation was off the air or had finished and was into films by the time that Voyager had started. So then Voyager actually launches on its mission from Deep Space Nine. Yeah. So Voyager is where they're lost on the other side of the galaxy.
What were we talking about?
Well, let me get to it. You asking what it was.
I've lost track of what was.
Well, you asked the question. You then need to listen to the answer.
Your story. Yeah.
So then it was about, because I was rewatching Voyager, because I don't just randomly type, what can I say on the podcast? It occurred. So there was an episode of Voyager where they passed the fictional warp 10, which is something they never, they will say, oh, it's impossible to do that. It's impossible to do that. So somebody who was a big Star Trek fan.
Has science told us in any of the episodes what one warp is worth speed-wise?
I think they sort of slightly kind of fudge it as they go,
and it is speed. It's not like going through wormholes. All these warps. It's a speed.
No, the idea of warp space is essentially
warp
space is like that. It bends it like that, and you cross the gap
so you can't really say speed. It's just bending.
No. Okay. Well, yeah, I suppose it's distant. It is speed technically.
So further warping
would
be bending
travel,
it. Yeah, so it'd be the higher the warp, the more it's bending.
Yeah.
Okay. So 10 would be like instant travel anywhere because it's basically touching everything.
Yeah, I think they implied
like
that 10 is essentially light speed.
Yeah. Well, that's not very fast.
Yeah, it's pretty fast here.
It's not in the future. To travel between planets takes fucking hundreds of years. It's not. It's only small. It's only good compared if we're apes. It's fast to us.
Yeah, it must be. Is it fast and light? It must be fast and light speed. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose maybe warp speed.
If you're warping, then it's different. Then light speed's irrelevant as to how much you're warping it.
Because they slightly, they kind of fudge it as they go along, because there's even stuff about, hey, we'll go to this galaxy. And then it's like, oh, no, actually, we can't go to other galaxies. Oh, we'll go to the other end of the galaxy. Oh, no, wait a minute. We can only go to a quadrant in our galaxy. So they sort of try to unify the science. Anyway.
Can we get Neil deGrasse Tyson on the phone? Hang on, let me see what his name is. Just a sort of, how fast is warp speed? Yeah, no, I think he's away. Go on.
Yeah, he's he's on hold. Yeah. And so in this episode of Star Trek, in this particular episode of Voyager, they cross the fictional warp 10 barrier, which up until then, was always the thing of like, oh, you can't ever go that fast. and it causes one of the crew members to mutate because he goes so fast. It's like he's traveling in the future. He mutates to a higher form of life. Somebody wrote this up as a paper saying about ways that they could overcome the hazards of trying to travel at warp 10 to avoid mutation, submitted it to several journals, open access journals, and got it published in several. Because all he did was he changed quite a bit of it to make it sound less fictional, but he still kept in things like Starfleet Academy and Warp 10. I think he submitted it to 10 open access journals. Incidentally, these although they're open access, they do charge fees. Now, a lot of journals are not open access; they're for academics to submit papers to, but they don't charge you because if you're if you're a professor of whatever, you want to submit a paper on this or that.
He's not sending in a script; he's sending in a scientific breakdown of something.
Yeah, he basically just took the plot and said, "This is how we can overcome being mutated into fish people by traveling."
Was he trying to get it sort of peer reviewed? Was this
I was going to say, is it peer reviewed?
That was his point. He said, like, these journals all claim to be like, hey, you'll be scrutinized. We'll have an editorial, and then we might publish it. And he said, no, they just if your check clears, they'll publish it. Oh, nice. Like they don't. He said only out of the 10 he submitted to, only one flagged, and it still didn't stop them barring the publishing it. That they said, isn't Starfleet Academy is also a fictional thing, isn't it? That was it. That was their one note.
Have you been paying attention to all this what's spilling out about the New York Times best list and like how you basically buy your way onto it? Have you been paying attention to this?
No.
Yeah, it's been going on for about 6 months. Somebody realised that you can bulk purchase, which has basically been going on now a lot, where if you want to get onto the New York Times bestseller list, which then means you're an author and get onto TV, but companies have just been bulk buying their own books to get you on there to say I'm a New York. And the biggest one has been, which broke it all really, the whole story, was Trump's son who released a book. And it was a shit book, but it was on the New York Times bestseller list, and somebody sort of tracked through it and found out that, there's all these loopholes I think it was like, I can't remember exactly, but it's either like 10,000 books gets you on there or 5,000 books. And then they traced it back to, there was a mysterious purchase of either 9,000 books or 4,000, just below the threshold of what it took to get you on there. And there's mysterious bulk purchase. So now if you go on to the how many books have been sold, they actually have to put a little symbol which says most of this has been done by bulk. So what had been going on, publishers or companies have been getting somebody to write a book and then just buying masses of loads of these books to get onto the New York Times list, and then have the promotion because everyone's looking at that Times list to go, who would they make? But it's actually a big con because they've been buying all the books themselves to get them.
So publishers inflating their own sales.
Yeah, and it's like it became the norm. So now they've got a little symbol to say like most of this has come from like bulk purchasing. But Trump's son's one, it was just below the threshold of how many books you need to get onto the list had been purchased. So now even that, it's like constantly, you just can't, bullshit everywhere.
Of course, yeah. I mean,
who's the artist? Who's the modern artist? Crystal Skull and Shark and Formaldehyde.
Damien Hirst.
Oh, Damien Hirst. I was thinking Damien Lewis. I knew Damien. I was going Damien Lewis, but that's the actor. I was like,
the shark that's cut in half.
Damien Hirst. He did a similar thing. There was a similar thing with the Crystal Skull that he did. A very elaborate, had loads of diamonds and jewels.
Knowledge was their treasure.
So Damien Hirst he's a sculptor, he's an artist, isn't he?
So modern artist. Yeah, very, very sort of famous, controversial artist. Very sort of shock. There's a lot of shock stuff. And he and there was a thing where he sold this work a while ago now, 10, 15 years ago. And it went for 30 million, I think, at the time. And it was one of the most expensive pieces. I think it was the most expensive piece of modern art ever sold, let's say. Yeah. And basically what they found is that it was a consortium bought it that he was a part of. Wow. And he had a backer. He had someone who was funding him, several sort of people who were sort of funding him. And also people who had bought his previous works, some people who had bought his previous works. And what they were doing was basically inflating the price as a publicity stunt in order to inflate the value of his other works. Yeah. So here is a man who has something that's gone for 30 million. Therefore, his other works are worth an awful lot of money, and it inflates his value, his brand, and it's all about promoting his brand as well. So he actually put in tons of his own money. I can't remember how much now. It's really, really, really interesting. There's a documentary about this. It wasn't illegal, but it's not. It's a bit shady the way the money was going around. And yeah, it was sort of, he put money into the purchase of his own work of art to inflate his brand, and it's very strange.
Was it Damien Hirst that did the destroying a painting or something like that, and you could watch it being destroyed? Was that Banksy? Yeah. What was it? What was it? Was it a trick or?
Because they had an auction for something. It was a work of his on canvas in a frame. Yeah, and they sold it for, I think, quite a bit, like $1 million or $2 million or $3 million or something. It was a decent amount. Yeah, and they went sold. And as soon as they went sold, there was a message went out, and there was a shredder at the bottom of the frame.
Yeah, that was the Banksy, isn't it?
Yeah, the Banksy one. And there was a shredder. So literally, as soon as it got sold, it went and then went down and then just shredded this paint.
And what was the point of that? What was his?
It's a joke. It was a joke. And
the whole thing was a joke. Oh
no, I think the guy spent the money on it, but
they're saying that that's now worth it because of that moment, aren't they? It's now worth almost what this.
But it's gone.
Ludicrous. So no, it's worth more now because we know about it. You wouldn't have heard about it.
Oh, right.
And this became like a world famous like practical joke kind of thing.
But they're saying that's what his art is. His art is promotion. That's what his art is. If you
it's
quite satirical as well, isn't it? Often.
There's a meta quality to a lot of it. Yeah.
So, but that's almost like, surely that's almost a type of insider trading. If you're associated with something that's inflating things and deflating, you can't have any sort of connection to the thing, because otherwise why would you not all do it? Why would you not go, right, let's just get all these artworks are worth not a lot, let's just sell one, let's buy it ourselves for 30 million, and that makes all the other ones more expensive.
It's almost like stock market, isn't it? Something is actually only valued if people decide it's valued.
It's market manipulation, certainly.
Yes. Well, talking of raising the bar, have you heard all the Joe Rogan thing that what's happened?
He's got a Spotify deal.
Yeah, so basically what he's done is he's sold his show to Spotify for 100 million. So now what's happened is,
I think we've got a similar deal on the way, haven't we?
Any day now, boys. Any day, come on.
Dot those T's, cross those I's.
By the way, I will get that $5 back to you for next week. I'm just waiting for me money to come through.
The cash converter roll to come through.
As soon as the cash converter's over, I'll be round. I'll cash in that thing.
As soon as that cash converter's over, I'll fucking down there like a whippet. Yeah.
No, will we be able to claim our mic purchases back on that 100 million?
There's 30 quid. I can get 12 quid, surely, mate. If we all go around the cash converter and stand in the queue. Suffer the indignity.
That's going to be a sad queue, isn't it? Like during Corona lockdown, all the crackheads there with their son's PlayStation, queuing for to get a tenner out of it.
Well, so basically, what's happened is, so he sold it for 100 million. But what he's now done, really, because podcasts have always been this thing in the background of mainstream media, and he said by this one deal for 100 million. It's basically now raised the bar in media to say, look, this is a serious thing now. By him getting that amount, everybody below can now barter for a better deal because somebody is taking it seriously. Like the artwork thing, that's what reminded me of it. If that's now worth that, then all the other shows are worth that. So that bar, in terms of society, podcasts are now a major, major, major thing. Whereas before, it was still sort of catching up with the rest of media. So it's good news for the future.
I suppose it's like footballers' wages. Is that
one person then they
one person they raise the bar, so you go, okay, this person's then worth this, so therefore I'm not maybe best in the world, but maybe I should be getting a half or third of what he's getting.
Do you remember?
So it raises the level.
You might not know this, but a few years ago, do you remember there was all the podcasts were being sort of held to ransom, like major podcasts, because somebody realised there was a little loophole. Because all these things like the internet, like laws have to catch up with technology. Rules have to catch up. And what was happening? Somebody realised in California, this group of people, I think one was a lawyer, that there was a loophole that nobody had copyrighted, putting things on the internet in a chronology, like number 1, number 2, number 3. That little bit of software that put things in a chronology hadn't been copyrighted, so they copyrighted it. And then basically went around to each podcast individually and said, look, you're going to have to pay us royalties because you have not used, you've used something that we now own.
The patent trolling.
Yeah, patent. That was it. Yeah, sorry, patent troll. And a lot of these podcasts had to go on each other's podcasts and say, look, they're hitting us one by one, and a lot of people had paid the money. Just
for them to go away, because they usually ask for a smallish amount.
That's
so
right,
they'll come to you and they'll say, "We're going to sue you and tie you up for millions. We might not do it, but we'll tie you up in
just give us a couple of quid." Yeah, and then they were pushing their luck.
Give us $5,000 and we'll fuck off.
And then there was major shows saying to, I think one went on Joe Rogan's show, and they were saying, look, we need to have this fund put together to fight these people, because they're literally chopping us off one by one.
Yeah.
And I think it's sort of figured out that they went away in the end, and people realised, like, these pieces of shit have literally just copyrighted the thing to get money out of people.
People go and buy, this is the thing, people go and buy old copyrights and weird sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Like I heard stories, I don't know whether it's true or not, but I've heard urban legends, let's say, of people going around, someone bought like the copyright for the photocopier.
Oh.
And then they were going around to offices with photocopiers saying, well, you haven't asked for the right to, we own the patent for the copyright, you're using a photocopier, you haven't asked us for it, we're going to sue you for $100 million unless you give us $3,000. And they're just like, what? They're just like, what the hell are you talking about? And like really basic stuff, like pencils and like kind of staplers and stuff. And they're like, yeah, we earn, and because some of them are very broad and nebulous. Like there was someone tried to get the patent, or did have the patent for like storing in data on your computer. the concept of storing data, binary data onto the computer. And they did try and I think they tried legally to sort of sue people and stuff, but the courts deemed that this is just so broad and nebulous. You can't have a patent. You can't buy the patent for air or whatever. I mean, it's fucking ridiculous.
What you need in those kind of situations is you need to go to the wrong person, someone who's got a lot of deep pockets, and just goes, all right, fuck you, we'll tie you up in court, and then when we win, not only will we take you for damages, we'll also sue you back for malicious prosecution.
Yeah.
And that's what,
but again, that is if you win.
Yeah, of course. But that's what
if you got the money to fight them for two years.
Because that's what happens
with some gangster dude, someone who's just going to beat the shit out of you.
You come in for the photocopy, and it's like, get him out, use his head to open the door.
Yeah.
Well, because that's what happened with
some money.
John Travolta, with because people always come after him to say like, oh, he's gay and this and stuff, but often it's just to get cash. They're like, oh, I'm going to say that John Travolta touched my bum unless you give me $1 million quid. So I'll sue you for 100 million, but if we settle out of court, give me whatever. But they somebody tried that. I mean, not just him. They tried that with a lot of people, because. But anyway, it was John Travolta. Masseuse said, oh, he brought me, hired me for his room, and then got a boner and tried to make me touch it and all this kind of stuff. And they were saying this, and the lawyer, this guy's lawyer was like, oh, we have irrefutable proof that John Travolta is this horrible sexual, and that's not to say, but to say this horrible sexual deviant, and he's a rapist, and this isn't about money, even though we're suing for $100 million, but this is about justice. And they went, not only can we prove that John Travolta was not in the same hotel with you, he was not in the same coast as this hotel. He was in a room at a conference that was being at an event, that was being filmed in a room full of hundreds of people being broadcast. So no, and then
that should be a fine then.
Yeah. Oh no, they said that. So they got the masseuse had to issue a groveling, begging, pleading apology, but they still right up until the thing said, "Now we still might sue you anyway for malicious." But what they did do, they eventually accepted the masseuse's very groveling, very public apology, but they took the lawyer to court. The person who filed the suit.
An apology just to be, I lied. That's all.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, that's what the apology was. They were saying that they lied because they wanted to get money, but the lawyer, they wouldn't. Whatever they said, they went, no, we're suing you. Sorry.
Well, that's why it's all this stuff. I like the idea of my moral court. Of going, right, okay, we've come up with this patent for I don't know what we're talking about, the podcast, and legally and go, okay, listen. You're full of shit. You did nothing. You've come up with something, and now you're terrorizing people. I don't care about the legalities of the patent, and that's what you need a moral law for. To sort of go.
So what is this? What is this patent trial? I didn't quite understand how you can sue people for what, the chronology of what.
Yeah, literally that using anything that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like platforms, like music, podcasting. We put things in an order.
Right.
That thing of putting things in an order that uses anything 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So what? They're going to sue the IMDb, or they're going to sue
everything?
Yeah.
But people paid out on this. People did pay out on it because they were suing people for millions, and that were just being paid and going, okay, look, take the money.
Or just threatening, or just threatening it. Really, most of the time. Because some people go up and hoover up lots of patents for different things, and most of them
patent trolls. You remind me when you said that. Yeah.
And this is a thing. I haven't really heard of it in England, but I have heard of it in America. And they literally go up and they will hoover up.
Sounds about right.
Particularly when, when companies liquidate or whatever, they're bankrupt. They're selling off the assets. People come and buy them for not very much, and they'll come and hoover up like lots of patents, because often big companies, they'll buy patents for stuff, or there are old patents that are weird, random stuff, especially with new technology, especially with computers and internet and stuff. Lots of people patented a lot of different things when it was still very broad and nebulous. No one knew what the fuck they were doing. So these things are now in circulation, and people and less scrupulous people are hoovering them up and then trying to use them effectively to blackmail people. There's
usually one lawyer in there. That's his, legal paperwork. I remember years ago a radio program, and it was about a defunct thing, a patent, and it was for springs in a sofa. Like the act of having springs in a sofa had gone out of date. And somebody had bought it up, but he did it to just say, he didn't do anything with it, but he just said, look, I've now bought this thing, and it's to do with things going out of date and that you can now own them.
Yeah.
So what are they going to do? Sue people, anyone who owns a sofa?
No, I think they bought it as a PR thing to go, look, we've bought this, we own, but they didn't do anything with it. But I thought, that thing's still out there. And if your thing is legal stuff and patents, then you go, well, we can make millions from this sort of thing. But the podcasters all got together, as we all should, and they all sort of clamped down. I put a $5
podcast
in.
union, yeah.
I paid a $5 into that, and it all it just went away. But the major podcasts,
because you didn't want to break that £100 million note you had. You're like, I've got a 5 or 100 million. They're never going to be happy with the change.
But so they went away. So I think people realised. So I'm talking. I was a bit bloody miserable today.
Oh.
There was a couple of a few weeks ago.
We were looking forward to speaking to you too.
Yeah.
You're like, oh God, not East.
Once it's over, yeah. No, I keep getting I could live across the road from quite a big care home, quite a nice one, but it's very big, and they have this full panoramic window, so you can see everything inside. And
cool. Just what you want.
Yeah. But so I keep getting things sent to me because there's 2 flats. They've got a lot of flats where they are, and I live in a block of flats opposite. And I keep getting stuff sent to me, like crutches. And once I had a wheelchair sent to me in a box, a big box when I got in, and there's a box outside, and it was like a wheelchair, folded up wheelchair. So I had to take that. I lived on the second floor. I lived on the second floor. But I was thinking, surely they must know this probably isn't. But anyway, so I keep having to take it back. It's always flat wherever I am, but it's flat. That number over the other side, so I had to take it back, and it's annoying because it's not open a lot, to get in, so I have to keep going backwards and trying. Anyway, but a couple of times I've been in there, and it's the classic old guy. I think he might be Italian, Greek, Turkish.
A classic old guy.
No, but I mean in terms of he's got the little moustache, very nice gold rimmed glasses, and a grey 3-piece suit and a cane,
old school
proper,
gent then. Yeah,
proper, yeah. And
pocket watch.
No, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Handkerchief?
Yeah. He looks like a sort of nice robber baron. He's just old school.
I don't think there is such a thing as a nice
exactly, yeah. But not just a nice little suit. He looks like he's just about to go out. He looks like he's going to an event. And I keep seeing him every now and again. And every time I keep seeing him, he's on his own. So I thought he'd be with somebody, or he was visiting. He was that well dressed. And once I went over there, and he was just sat there, and I went, oh, is there anybody around? No, I don't think so. Blah, blah, blah. I'll come back at a certain time, blah, blah. And then I saw him today. I saw him about 2 days ago, and he was just wandering around. And I was thinking, he must be visiting somebody. 'Cause he's always too well dressed. And then I saw him this morning, and he was just outside they've got a little park area right next to it, and he was just sat there, just on the bench, about 8:30 in the morning, and I was dressed immaculate again, 8:30 in the morning, and I thought, oh no, he's one of the thing. He lives there. And I thought, it fucking depressed me because I was just
one of the residents, I think.
Yeah.
Call them,
and it's a nice care home. It's not a shit. It's a really nice care home. But I just thought, that fucking bloke. Every time I've seen him, he's basically on his own, and he's always really, really well dressed. And I thought, it depressed me. I was watching him sitting on the bench today, and I thought, that is not right. That is not fucking right. That's just, he's existing. He's not living. I've never seen him with anybody. He's to be that well dressed every morning. And I thought, it's really not good, you know, the way, like, I thought, oh,
you don't know. He could be happy.
I've never seen him with it, but it's the fact he's always that well dressed, like he's making a real effort every single day. I'm assuming he must have been married or something like that. But to be that well dressed all the time, random times of the day, and I've never seen him talk to anybody. If I've seen him 5 or 6 times, 4 of them have been on his own, like just sat there. And I'm like, oh, fucking hell. And I thought, it's not good, man. Like, it annoys me. There's a lot of things about society annoy me, but that really F's me off. Like, that is a broken system there, that some bloke has just sat on his own. And I was thinking, should I go and say something? But I don't want to get dragged in, because I won't be able to just... If I see him once, I'll have to go over all the time.
Yeah.
And it's pure selfish, because if I do it once, it's now more vivid in my head. And I'm going to make a note of, like...
Don't humanise him. Don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
don't
it's
learn his
sickening.
name.
Is that pathetic? Is that? I know if I didn't have so much shit going on, I'd be over there all the time volunteering. I really, honest to God, would. But I know I'll get dragged in and I'll start knowing people, and I'm working too hard now on stuff. But I just thought, that is not right. That should be. Like I knew somebody who worked in a care home, and the care worker. They used to go around and see people, and there was a woman that was going to be on her own on Christmas Day. It was a very old lady. I think she was like 88. And this person that I know said, like, I wanted to go around on Christmas, but they won't pay her to go and see the woman on Christmas. And she said, I can't not just leave the woman on her own, because she's her regular care worker. She said, I can't not go around there. She's sat on her fucking own for the whole day. Nobody's going to see her. She hasn't got any family, but the council won't pay for her to go there on Christmas Day. So she had to get dressed up in the gear and pretend she went round there anyway, and bought her a present out of her own fucking money, and then got in trouble because she'd gone round there in the suit, like she was officially on duty, and it became a thing. I thought, oh, do you know what? Fucking hell, is this just like this fake society? It's all broken. It's like all jammed together. Oh, look at society. Go, no, there's big fucking major cracks in it, and things like that fella. I kept seeing him because all the windows were open. I kept looking past. I thought, that's not fucking right, man. That is so out of all, at least the Eastern cultures,
and then you shut the curtains
and never looked
That's
again.
That's dreadful. That, yeah.
But
someone should do something about that. Yeah.
The Eastern cultures have got things right, where you are more revered as you get older. You are more listened to as you get. You're more respected. Your family envelops around you as you get older. You do have a better life. I've said before, going to bring up Turkey, Kerem, but a fellow when I was working in removals,
Kerem is our producing.
Yes, we had to remove this guy, and he was a Turkish fellow. He's worth a bit of money, and he said, I'm going back to Turkey, and he'd be over here since the 70s. He'd owned a business over here since the 70s, and he was going back to Turkey. He said, because the pension's like 3 times the amount it is here, and you have a better life, like on the pension.
Your money goes through it.
Yes, he said after 30 years to retire, he's going back there. And I thought,
yeah,
it's fucking mad, isn't it? But then you go to look at what's going on here with these old people's homes, and you go, it's horrendous, really. They're treated like shit.
Coincidentally, my girlfriend was telling me about the care home. There's this big care home crisis in Canada where these private care homes, the staff there were just abandoning the people because of their coronavirus hotspots.
Yeah.
They were just abandoning that. There was one instance where she was telling me that someone had come into the hospital because they had coronavirus. They'd come from a care home to the hospital because they had coronavirus. And so I think it was a nurse or a doctor then rung the care home to kind of check in and say, because obviously if there's one person in the care home, the chances are there's a few people. So when they check in, no one answered, and they tried a few times. So then they went to the care home. They just found it abandoned. The people were just left. They were just left, like the staff had just fucked off.
And just who was the last person that walked out that door?
Well, but you know what I mean? Like, yeah, exactly. They probably just all went en masse, and it's something like that. You've all got to do it.
Yeah,
do you
you
know
just
what I mean?
walk, yeah.
But yeah, so all these private
But that's
staff.
a shitty conversation, though, isn't it? Imagine that. Right?
Should we just go? How many arseholes?
Should we just go?
Just leave them, just leave these old people. Let's leave someone's grandpa to die.
Yeah, people who can't fend for themselves, literally.
Yeah, but these staff are paid to live there quite handsomely, I believe. Now, obviously, that's not to say, oh, you got to stay and die. It's not the fucking Titanic and you're the captain, but just to abandon people. If you just, if you called someone and said, look, I'm quitting now. You can keep the money. I'm sorry, I can't. I'm too scared. Yeah. Please send help. But to just full on abandon people.
And not tell anyone.
Yeah, that's the thing.
You legally have a duty of care. When in those positions, you do. I don't know about Canadian law, but you do actually have a duty of care. And there's you have professional bodies and professional certificates and stuff that you have to do for these certain jobs, and they require you to not abandon your post, even even if you're over the hours.
You're a care worker. It's like adopting and going, I've just left them. No, you were legally entitled to. You're legally what's the word called? Bound to look after that person.
But I think you have a duty of care. Yeah. That's the terminology. Yeah.
But you know what I mean. That they hadn't been fed for a couple of days because everything's all kept locked up or it's all delivered or whatever.
Did you ever watch the Ricky Gervais care? Derek? He did the thing about the care home.
I heard mixed things about it, and I was a bit uncomfortable with
but I couldn't find humour in the. I just felt bad because that's fairly indicative of what a care home would be. The people that work there being shat on by the people above trying to save money in these private homes. But I just thought it's a bit too depressing for.
And I like Ricky Gervais and Carl Pilkington in it. I like Carl Pilkington a lot, but I found the character of Derek, which is obviously the star of the show. I was like, is this for real?
It was too. You had very morbid and then sort of like cheesy, voice
mawkish,
things.
overly sentimental. At times, you're supposed to take him very serious, and then he's chimping around, going, like pretending to be disabled. And you're like, at one point, you're mocking. I was like, is this actually a joke? Is this like a joke on the audience? Honestly, is this like a really clever, funny in joke on the audience? Because because I'm just like, because you're like literally mocking disabled people and also going, oh, the system fucks over disabled people and aren't they? And then you're also being patronizing and then doing loads of like fart jokes, and it's just like, what's
but don't worry, we've got a deep, bit meaningful bit coming up, sort of thing, and it just didn't work. I thought,
yeah, and they go, don't worry, we're going to play Coldplay for during the end montage and make you feel sad. And I'm like, is this for real? Like, genuinely, I was like, is this like a meta joke? Is this like are you doing this? Is this like a joke that no one gets? Yeah, that you just fucking with the audience,
I just found it. I didn't give it a chance. I must say, because I just found just from the trailers and the images, I was like. So he's being a disabled person by gurning and kind of being a bit boss-eyed, and I thought,
that character. I mean,
I found that a bit uncomfortable.
It was too much of a cartoony character. Like there's too much emphasis on all these weird, the wig and the walk and the voice. That's a different show. That he's in a different show. That he shouldn't be there. There's surely more subtle ways of doing it. But so. But that was just seeing them play out, like the care homes. That just felt really bad. So I'm just another little thing. I'm pissed off with society, and I fucking charge society with a moral crime. That is a moral crime to have old people in homes like that. That is a crime. What's the Batman thing? I'd drag them up into that Batman court and say, right, you bastard.
The Bane court.
Yeah.
Send them out to the ice.
Well, who you putting in jail? Everyone,
council workers, local council workers, private owners of care homes, private prison owners, people that own private prisons. So
you put the prison, but you put in the care home.
Well, it is it's the same thing.
Well, they're death houses. They're just death. They just house people. I mean, mostly they're just there to house people until they die. That's what they're there for.
It's not right. That is not.
Yeah, but that's not their fault. That's the people who don't want to look after them or who can't. That's a
government.
Society. As you're right, I think the whole of society is failing these people. Yeah.
I saw there was what was that? For some reason, the job popped up. It must have been online. It was coronavirus, and there was a job on a website that I was looking at, and it was looking for a nurse for a care home. And it was like almost bang on when everyone started panicking and the closures happened, and it was £9.11.
Yeah.
And I thought, fuck you. After the tax, £9.11 in 2020 to look after a human being, £9. Like, you fucking scumbags.
I had a couple of agencies because there's no work, obviously, like events or whatever. So I had a couple of agencies be like, "Oh yeah, we've got like loads of care home workers," and it's like, yeah, they were like £8.90 an hour, and I'm just like, no thanks.
Disgraceful.
Yeah, to rub somebody's bed sores and
yeah, literally wipe people's asses.
Care home. Listen, I mean, again, if I take over, right, first thing, day one, right, police, care workers, nurses, double their wages. I want people bottlenecking to get into that profession. I want so many people to go, fucking hell, I want to get in there as much as possible. I want to give free classes in psychology and medical to anybody that gets involved with the industry. Free classes in whatever you want, spirituality, psychology, medicine, whatever. Free classes for evening classes, whatever you want to do, and make it a thing that you'd want to do. Make it, like almost like with private schools, where I was said to you last night when we was talking about the Stephen Fry audiobooks. I was going through there and how much of a prestige it is for you to get a position as a teacher in one of these schools. That's what it should be like. Not, well, we can sort of get people to do the job for this amount of money, so just give them that. But it's like all backwards.
It's a shame because sorry.
Go on.
I was just going to say, it's a shame because I know so many, I don't know many people who work in the health. I know a few actually, but not many. But everyone I know who works in nursing, in teaching, they all love it.
Yeah.
But they're being they're being
nice.
shat on with
they're being exploited. They're going, well, how much can we put up with? I want to do this, but how much can we put up with before we say I can't do it? One of the jobs I was trained, I did like sports training briefly, and I had a job at a school as an assistant PE, and I tell you what, that sticks in my head now as like the favourite job I've ever done. I mean, most of them been shit, to be fair, but I thought. When I heard that, literally, I think it was the second week when I heard how much money you get paid, I was like, nope, that is not. And I fucking loved that job.
Sorry.
To be a PE teacher for a kid's school,
okay, right.
And it was nursery,
rewarding.
primary school. But I fucking loved it. I absolutely loved being there. It was like part of this course I did where you had to go and work training thing But I fucking loved it. I couldn't believe how good it was to be around like these young kids playing sports. It was fucking fantastic. And then there's somebody said, "Oh, by the way, it's how much to get," and I was like, "Fucking, you are kidding me." And I never thought about it again. Didn't even think about it. Which is pathetic. Bringing up people's children. I mean, outside the parenting, the schooling is like the second parent. And how much let's get these secondary parents and pay them fuck all to bring up and educate your kids.
Well, again, I had. Sorry.
No, Kerem.
Go on,
oh God, I keep interrupting. Sorry.
No, it's all good.
I'm just terrible.
The demon is the devilness of Skype, isn't it? It's not very conducive to a free flowing conversation, is it? Unfortunately, what was I going to say? It's like the demonization of the teachers' unions in the whole "should kids go back to school" kind of thing, which was the big news topic this week, and then Dominic Cummings went and just took a shat all over the page, like the news cycle.
I keep getting refresh on like, is he gone? Is he
gone? Yeah.
And that's not a Tory thing. We'll dive. We'll dive.
We'll have a talk about it in a sec because that's I think that's interesting. But yeah, this whole thing. Literally, I remember the other day the Daily Mail was saying that the fanatical communist teachers unions, they were calling them, for questioning, for just saying, could we please get clarification of the health and safety policy with regards to the coronavirus when the kids go back, because we're not entirely comfortable with it being safe for ourselves or for the children, because as they say, a teacher's working environment is a student's learning environment. You know what I mean? They will only do as well. Pupils will only learn or do as well as the teachers are being paid and be given the resources to do so. You know.
It's bloody disgusting. I mean, the care homes, the schooling, it's fucking. And I charge society in this month and year. I charge them with a crime of how they treat people and schooling and basically nurses and things like that. I thought there was a job a few years ago. It was for an ambulance driver, and I think it was like 21,000 a year or something like that. I thought, fucking driving in an ambulance, and you have medical knowledge. You're not just sat there on your fucking arse.
No,
like you're not just a bus driver.
Up.
Yeah. And what they put up with, the abuse and things, and you go,
yeah, but it's the same like policemen.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be a policeman for all the fucking money in the world, though. I wouldn't be. Just having people just spitting at you constantly. Do you know what I mean? Literally and metaphorically.
Knocking your little hat off when you walk in.
Like,
you know what I mean?
Like when I did some security, and the wages basically didn't change for about 15 years. Nothing. Exactly the same. Like, and I thought, the fucking grief you have to put up with. Worse than forget the police. That's a boot camp, because you've got a backup. You've got weapons.
He's going to nick people as well. You know what I mean? Like,
plus, because we would have. There was one guy who was he'd left the police force. No, he was going to be the police force. That was it, the riot squad in, I won't say where, in North London, and he could do jobs part time, and he wanted to do the security at one of these clubs, and he said, "I don't fucking work in there," because what happens is, what you don't realise with the police is 90% of the people will respect your badge, like they're scared of your badge. You're a police officer, and everything that comes along with it. So you when somebody grabs your wrist, you will obey. When they say do this, you mostly will do it. When you do security in a nightclub, mate, you're at the back of a club and it's pitch black and everyone's pissed, and you try and tell somebody something, they throw a punch at you like it's nothing. They're not bothered. So you got no backup. So I used to say to people, if you want to be a police officer, you got to work in nightclubs as a bouncer. You got to get punched in the head a few times before you realise, okay, I've got to talk to people properly.
I can totally see why bouncers sometimes go in heavy-handed. I mean, there's a shift. I think there has been a shift, though. I remember when I first started going out to the discotheques, there were a lot of bullies and thugs in security.
Well, there was no licensing then, so it was the toughest guy in the town.
Yeah, I think it's got to be better.
It was just like, if they just decided they didn't like the look of you, they were just going to beat the fuck out of you. They were just going to bully you, harass. They were just going to harass you the whole night until they either provoked you into fights so they could beat the fuck out of you, or you just went because then they could prove that they had big genitals. But I can totally understand, even after like it became more regulated and licensed, I can understand why they're going heavy-handed, because you're like, do you want to fight a fucking drunk person who's going to smash a bottle over your head?
Yeah. And constantly throughout the night, not just once. Like, it's constantly. If there's 2,000 people in that club, and people would say, like, when I used to explain to somebody, because people would always get involved, don't do this, don't do that, and I said, do you know what that fucking bloke's just done? Do you know when I was dragging him down the stairs? Do you know what he was doing upstairs? And like, you'd have to push people away from the door, and you see somebody who would come out of a club, you'd have to push them. Because what would happen is 9 times out of 10, the second you let them go, all right, the second you let them go, you'd get an elbow in the back of your face. Yeah. So what you'd see as somebody being pushed is because 10 times before, when you didn't push them, they immediately belted you in the face. And you're, I'm all right, mate. No, I'm sorry. You let them go, bang, straight in the face. So
people are animals when they're drunk.
Yeah.
So, but you wouldn't see it. But yet, the shit you'd have to put up guns. People will pull a gun on you because you're not a police officer. They wouldn't do it to a police officer, but they wouldn't pull a knife on a police officer. These are regular things. But when people join the police force, they don't know about how to handle violent situations because they've never had to. Because the badge stops anybody having their hands put on the police officer. So, which then, if there's a big thing, it makes them even more insecure. So if anything happens, they overreact because they're not prepared for somebody that's acting aggressively. Whereas when you work in a nightclub, you get used to violence. You know what it's like to take a punch in the face. You know not to push or shove somebody for no reason. Whereas the police think they can because they're hidden behind the badge of, you probably will do what I say because you're scared of the badge. But then you get an overconfidence in thinking I can talk to them this way or do what I want. But I think you shouldn't be allowed to be a police officer until you've worked as a doorman for a year. That should be minimum. To just go in there, it's like, well, I don't know about physical things at all. I've never been punched in the face, so I think I can do what I like and nothing's going to happen. So, let's get off these subjects. We can't in this bloody society. It's fucked up. It really is. It's like, I'm annoyed that when I've sort of come into the world and I've started to see society and realise what a load of bollocks. People are in charge, aren't in charge. It's a free-for-all. They're nicking money. They're treating people like shit that are trying to make the world run right, but you've got these people not paying people. But anyway, so it will start
I think I think for a lot of the coronavirus in this country's been... He's going to drag on, and already is quite bad, and is already the worst in Europe. Really very high per capita cases, and I think a lot of that is because we've been poorly run as a country, and we've had a lot of all these public sector areas have just been absolutely run into the ground. And you're seeing stuff like, lack of funding for education, for healthcare, for social care and stuff, for the police. This is just reached ahead. These institutions were very defunded, very literally falling apart, and then now this crisis just
a little bump,
everything.
In a couple of weeks. That was all the buffer is. And there's a guy online.
There's no fats for them to work on. There's no like a little buffer.
But this is the thing. There was a guy online the other day, and he was saying about people wanting bailouts, and he says you were recording billions of profits 1 year after another year after another year. Stocks another billion, things worth 30 billion. Blah, blah. A month in. And you're saying we need a bailout, we need money. You go, where are all these billions? Where is all this fucking money?
Because they want to keep their bonuses. That's why. A friend of mine, I won't say what company he works at because I don't want to get him in trouble. But he was telling me that they're just using the furlough scheme to do things like, for example, if someone's handed in their notice, they're furloughing them, basically getting the government to pay their notice fee.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
and holiday and stuff. They're doing weird stuff with holiday pay. I know a couple of people who they're encouraging everyone to take the holiday.
With Branson saying, look, he needs money for the airline or it's going to go tits up.
Yeah, he's a garbage person. We've talked about this many times.
But where's your billions? You've been going for how many decades? And you can't handle a few weeks. You're starting to go, I need some money. Where's your profits?
Yeah, a month like the slightly slow business, and all of a sudden the economy collapses.
Yeah, I'm quite glad that he's been exposed for who he is.
Well, I think I saw today, I might have mistaken, but I think he sold his shares in the Space Galactic thing. He sold his shares in it all.
Space.
Well, yeah, because they were about to launch it, and everyone went, hold on, you're launching rockets, but you want us to pay out your, I know you don't own all of Virgin, but where's your decency, sir?
Where's the 20 years of billionaire status? Where's all this profits you've been getting? Where did it all go? The what was the film Greed? I said I watched the Steve Coogan Greed film, and it says at the back, I think it says at the end, it's thought about because they talk in the fact of, and the actors are saying this, we come to Monaco because nobody's paying tax here. All these hundreds of billionaires, nobody's paying any tax here.
Most billionaires in the world, isn't it? Also,
yeah, so
per mile.
They say there's about 40 trillion in unpaid taxes that have got that are because of this island, this Monaco, and these other ones. 40 trillion just hidden away, piling up, doing nothing.
I think it was. I can't remember how long ago it was, but the French at one point got fed up with the Monegasques not paying tax because obviously France, protects. So they went, all right, we're just going to shut off your water then. If you're not going to pay rates, we'll shut off the water supplies to you then, fresh water supplies. You can fucking live off Evian.
Well, a lot of these principalities, like the Isle of Man, the Channel Islands around the UK, they have weird status. They have weird sort of their legal status because they're not they're tax havens because they're not actually part of the EU, and they have a weird relationship to the UK. Because they don't have a lot of UK laws. I know that the Channel Islands, I think Guernsey or Jersey. I think both Guernsey or Jersey.
They would be the same because they're the bailiwick.
Yeah, they both of them. I think then they don't have discrimination laws like racial discrimination laws or hate crimes or anything. So you can fire someone for being a woman, and you can say that. You can fire someone for being black or a Muslim. You can actually state that. You say, I don't like you because you're black and I'm firing you. That's legal. That's perfectly legal.
I suspect that's probably a law that's just although it's a bit like when the Scilly Isles were still at war with the Dutch Republic for till about the 1960s because they hadn't signed because it'd been part under the because the treaty had been signed with the Commonwealth of England, but the Scilly Isles were a royalist stronghold. You know what I mean? Like, I can't imagine anyone is doing that.
Well, they are because the NHS.
Because...
No. Because
really?
Because I know people who work for the NHS and the Royal College of Nurses and stuff. And yeah, there are people who are fired for this, and they have claimed racial discrimination, and they say sorry. The representative bodies said, sorry, we can't actually do anything about it there, even though you do have a case, and this is quite clearly racial bullying or racial discrimination, because these laws don't apply to this area.
Modern society doesn't exist.
You think you just not, from a PR point of view,
you would just with the internet,
You know what I mean? Like, again, I'm not trying to be like, hey, let's find loopholes for racists. But you just think even you would just be so... maybe it's better that they are blatantly open and show who they are.
There was a nightclub in London, I think it was around Piccadilly, that got in trouble a few years ago because some people were saying, look, they're not letting sort of African people in there. They're going for mixed race women, and it got like ridiculous where there was picketing outside the club saying this is a racist club, that specifically not letting certain types of people.
Sorry, when you say African, what do you mean?
So there was a group of girls that couldn't get in. That's how it started. One of them, I think they were like African looking, like dark skin, African features, things like that. And
so they were discriminating against dark.
Yeah, they weren't allowed
people.
in, so they stuck back and basically took videos, and that they realised that they were pulling out people that were more African looking, but they were letting
people who had black people, but who had a darker complexion.
And but they were letting in groups. But it was the thing of like, you can come in, you can come in, you can come in, which is that happens. It's their club, but they said they were literally like, you could watch them, you pinpoint who they were not going to let in. So like for a few weeks, there's a couple hundred people picketing. It was in Piccadilly. I can't remember the name of the thing. But yes, I mean, it still goes on that weird thing of.
Well, they say that although we might think on the surface that there is more equality, for example, with black artists being in films and whatnot, and having music has always been a little more ahead of the curve. Has been a little more, more colourblind, I suppose we can say. But that certainly in film, where although there is a rise in black women having film roles, that those women are lighter skin tone.
Oh yeah, they've got. I was going to say they lightened up on it a bit recently, but that I didn't mean to. It's happened so gradually. It's been funny to watch. You go, well, here's a black person, but they're very light skinned. They're sort of more mixed race than anything, and then it's slowly become okay. We can sort of put an African looking guy in. I think Idris Elba. He's helped a lot. Like, he's broken down. Like, you can have a black man, what you would imagine. He's not a black man with light skin and European features. He looks like, but it's like this gradual. Is it okay? Oh, can we put him in? Is he in now? Then you had the Black Panther films, the first, the Marvel character. So it's slowly getting there, but you think, for fuck's sake, like, this should have been sorted out like 40 fucking years ago.
It's taken a long time, yeah.
But they're sort of dipping their toe. Is it okay? Is it okay?
I remember it blew my mind when I remember when I was I think it's the first time I saw it was in India when I saw skin whitening products. Adverts on the TV for skin whitening. I'm like, what? I'm like, what the hell is this? And like, you get them still. They are big. They have been banned in some countries I've heard recently. I think it's a couple of Caribbean countries, one or two African countries. I can't remember where. There's some countries have gone out and banned them and banned advertising for them, but they are still available in a ton of places.
And the echo of that will stay around for a good few generations before it goes. That sort of thing of like the caste systems, basically, it's still in there. You're still going to have they're better looking because they're lighter. That's still in families.
It's crazy.
It's odd that it's a very that seems to be an almost unit, because you would think, in this culture they wouldn't have it. So for example, in Thailand there's a thing where the darker I think in southern Thailand the people are broadly speaking darker, and so they're treated as second class citizens.
That's anywhere like Mexico, Cuba.
But it's almost the segregation of if you're even though they're both Thai for whatever reason, you might be. Obviously, I think Thailand is someone that has sort of different sub ethnic groups, as it were, as in different. So that although everyone is a Thai person, I'm afraid I'm butchering the term here. But, for example, in Indonesia, you have different ethnic groups within the larger thing. So in the same way that in Europe you have, Scandinavian North Europeans and then Southern European Mediterraneans. So in that same way,
Eastern European people.
Exactly. Yeah. So you think
even in the UK, we have Scotland, Wales, Ireland, and England. They are sort of slightly different history and culturally.
And London,
and London is very much so. London,
but it is
very, very different.
But it is that
to anywhere in the country.
It's that thing of like in Scotland. Obviously, there's a higher proportion of redheads. The Irish have the dark hair.
And they have their own language there and stuff. They have Gaelic and Welsh and stuff. So, they literally have separate languages in these areas.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? Like, so for example, English, French look very similar. Certainly until maybe you get to the southern coast of France, and Germans. So we will have that because of the for example, with the Saxons and the Normans all crisscrossing back and forth though against one another. Yeah. But obviously a Scandinavian. And a Nordic, because I think apparently the Finns and the Danes get Finland and there's a few countries that are like, hey, we're not even in that, but yeah. So a Swede looks very different to a Spaniard, but they're both European. So that's what I mean. So in the same way in Thailand, you've got Thais, but the ones in the north of the country have a fairer complexion, and look down on the ones in the south.
I wonder how much of that.
This is what I'm told.
How much of that is British rule? Like the
an imperial.
Because even
thing.
if they weren't in that country, it's sort of they would have got the media and things that would have, to a country near you would have been affected by them.
Yeah, well, there was a thing about the Italians, wasn't there, for a long time, whether it was true or not. But apparently, the northern Italians looked down on the southern Italians and the Sicilians because they were darker.
Yeah. I think it has just the British rule, and then sort of Western media sort of kept that up. The whiter the skin, they have more money, the more regal.
Yeah.
The moral is that people look at these other countries and other continents or whatever, and we see, or other racial groups, and see, they're all kind of a big block and they're all uniform. You know what I mean? So Latin America, that's a kind of one thing. Africa, that's another thing. Actually, no, everyone's divided and everyone hates each other. Even within countries, even within like cities, everyone hates each other for different reasons. People can always find a reason to find differences between each other. You know?
Do you remember I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast about the Japanese people, the Chinese that were getting all the like major surgery done on their faces to get into certain universities because you have to supply a photograph. I think it was China, and but they were getting sort of bone shaving to give them a jaw. And
that might
eyes.
Be. When we went to China, they were saying that they all find it really weird. Like all the Koreans just have tons and tons. She said like tons and our guides are saying like they have tons and tons of surgery.
Yeah.
So every time they come.
There was I think it was a BBC show I listened to years ago, and they're saying the woman had gone to the school, and she was saying how all the students were talking about having bone shaving to give them a jaw. They're having their eyes widened to give them the round appearance because they thought like the more slanted eyes, that was like too much. You look too Japanese or too Chinese. But because you had to supply a photograph along with your university application, and they weren't accepting people that looked too much that way. And there was the guy that sued his wife because she'd had all this work done. No, literally, what happened is he met her. She'd had all this work done, like the eyes being made more round, the jawline, the nose,
to give her more Western appearance.
Yeah. And then, but when they had the baby obviously looked like Chinese or Japanese, and he sued the wife because he didn't know she had all that plastic surgery. So now he had a kid that actually looked like it was from that culture. But it's really ingrained in them, especially with the eyes thing, and it's internalized now, the racism.
Yeah, I remember now they were saying that there's a thing again in Korea, and they were saying it's starting to South Korea, sorry, and it's starting to come over into China that people are getting their noses made bigger because in China. Everyone not everyone. That's massively broad, but broadly speaking, Chinese have sort of small little button noses, and the Chinese term for anyone who is Western was big nose. I can't remember. I can't remember what the term is, but it's not. They said you'll even hit in some parts of because obviously in Shanghai and Beijing they're like, oh, don't call Westerners big noses, but and again, it's not. The Chinese have a very blunt way of speaking about things. So again, within my own family. Obviously you've seen the pictures of me as a big fatso, and I remember I'd seen it was one of my grandmother's friends. So my grandmother,
you were vivacious and full of life. Andy.
I was festive.
He looked like his enemy was a Popeye, and he fancied a girl called Olive.
Yeah, exactly. I think I love that thing. I put up that picture on Instagram. You said, "Yeah, your mate, you fell down the stairs, and your mate thought it was the EastEnders theme."
Oh yeah, it sounded like you fell down the stairs. I thought the EastEnders was starting.
Yes. So my grandmother would say things like, "Oh, Andrew, I think you're part of BOA," and but even like friends of my grandmother who were Chinese, because she knew every Chinese person in Brighton. So they pop around and be like, "Oh, I think you're putting some weight," but it's not meant as an insult.
Yeah,
it's just meant as an observation. So again, in the same way that big nose wasn't meant as a racial slur, it's just people from Europeans and particularly would have big noses.
Yeah.
So they would call them. So I think because the first people they came into contact, because that's where the idea of Romans having big noses comes from. Because the first people that would have met, many of the first Westerners who met. Chinese were Romans. This is pre even Marco Polo, that there were legions out so far in the east and sort of exploratory missions from the Chinese coming west that they would have met one another. So only very scant, but it did happen a few times.
They went quite far, didn't they? They went to they were near Pakistan and stuff, weren't they? And Iran and stuff.
Yeah. So they would just go on these sort of expeditions. Not even necessarily just to map the known world and whatnot. So they met Romans who had bigger noses, and then that's where the thing of Romans having big noses came from. But yeah, they were saying that the South Koreans are now, and it's now coming to China, are all getting their noses sort of. I don't know how plastic surgery works, frankly. I've seen someone having their nose reduced, and I didn't think I'll ever stop screaming.
Yeah, they break the fucking thing.
I was like, we were at work, and
rhinoplasty, that's it. Right?
Yeah, we were at work, and in our gallery, we would have, as well as, this is when I was working the gambling channel, as well as having our own things, we would just have things from other channels just to see sort of when programs are ending, because that's always a good time to a call to action. Anyhow, we were in there about to take over the shift, and it was must have been so off-putting for the presenter, but you just involuntarily just shrieked in terror because they had this person's nose lifted up open and they were just chiseling. I actually screamed because I just couldn't believe that was what my eyes were witnessing.
Breaking the bone.
Yeah, with a genuine chisel hammer. I was like, this looks like something like from the worst torture porn Eli Roth kind of thing.
Yeah,
ever.
It's worse than you see in the Saw film. I mean, it makes Saw look tame, to be honest. It's my God.
So I'm not sure how they make a nose sort of big. I mean, because obviously, again, the sort of stereotype, I suppose we'll say the Han Chinese, have sort of kind of button mushroom noses. So it might be a case of just squidging. I don't know how, do you take cartilage from somewhere else?
But behind the legs or something like that, putting the fat.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, because it's that funny, it's that. Yeah, but it was just, I just don't understand. I can sort of get with, I mean, again, when you see people having a facelift, you're like you can
get away with one, maybe get away with one facelift.
They never know when to stop. That's the trouble.
That's
like sometimes people get one or two things, and you go, oh, they look pretty. Like what's her name? Not Patsy Kensit. Yeah, Patsy Kensit. The Abfab, the other one.
Joanna Lumley.
Joanne.
Oh, the older girl, the posh one.
Yes, Joanna Lumley. Yeah, sorry, Joanna Lumley. She has had a bit of work done. She's about 78 now. She's had a tiny bit done. You go, oh, she looks really good. She's looked slightly younger, but I'm thinking, okay, just stop now. Just stop, because you look great.
I said before that I saw an advert with Nicole
She's
Kidman.
very grateful for your support there, Charles.
I saw an advert with Nicole Kidman where she laughs and she put her hand in front of her, and I thought that's only usually what Hollywood stars do when they've had plastic surgery, because they can't smile. So they literally have to. It's okay if you don't move, but as soon as you have to express your face, it's fucked, because it's not designed to be moved. Yeah. You can't do plastic surgery with you smiling. Go, how does it look?
She has been quite open with her regrets about, because I think she was one of the early people to have.
Yeah, so this was the thing.
And she says, I regret it now.
I thought it was the first time she'd had it. But you go look back and then you see photographs of them from like 15. You go, okay, oh no, they've been getting it the whole way through. She does not look. Her face structure is not the same as before. Like you say, it's all right if you start touching it, but then when you start going, no, I'm going to get this done on a regular basis, or there's an award show coming up and I've got to get a top up. You start getting that fucking weird face, and then, as I said before, the monster starts to come through of who they really are. Bit by bit, you see this weird sort of.
Well, remember Arnie started to look weird and like flat-faced, like for a while. He stopped doing it, I think, so much because I
would say
he's starting to look like an old guy now. Because
he's a handsome guy, he's an older guy, and so what? You know what I mean? Guys can get it.
Well, if you look at his earlier
films,
films, he had a big mole on the side of his face, like half an inch across. He used to have a big mole on his face.
I don't remember.
That's how far back it is. I think it's like before pumping iron, even. Like he had a big mole on the side of his face. If you look early pictures of him, but he had it removed. Which is fair enough. But it's the plastic thing.
That's the thing. If you're self-conscious about something, you have maybe a thing nose or a burn or some scars or whatever. Yeah. If you're self-conscious about stuff, then okay, fair enough.
It's the pure vanity. There's nothing wrong to start with. I'm gonna keep on doing it. That's
people don't know when to stop. They just seem to get into it and they just do it. Yeah.
It's the monster being released inside who you really are. That ugly, vile. I don't care. I'm completely facile and cursory in how I appear. That's what's more. And I can't stop. I'm so egotistical. It's just hacking into your face and go, there you are.
I think these surgeons as well, they feed off the insecurity, because people are doing this are mostly insecure and they have a lot of money, and particularly actors and Hollywood types, it's about appearance and stuff. So that's very much on their minds, and they really play on that, and they're like, well, we could oh, you've got a slight thing there. I could do something about that. I could fix that. And you're getting some lines there. Or maybe I could do a little bit with that.
Single line,
It's like, they're like drug dealers. They're like drug dealers. You know what I mean? And they're literally fucking with these people's insecurities. They know these people are insecure. They know they have weaknesses, and they just play on it. You know.
Did you ever see the talking about Carl Pilkington when I don't know what show it was, but he went and did the body people about bodies. He wanted to see like people. I think it was about oneself or something like that, and he goes to stay with an Asian guy who's had all this work done, like everything, and he had shoulder things put in, like
what the fake
the chest
things.
fake, and you think fucking he'll just go to the gym, but his face was like. He had all the fat taken off from him, so he looked like Ken. But his shoulders are out here with this sort of the puffiness and the biceps and the chest, and you go, that's a sickness we're watching here. This is the freak show thing. It's not isn't it? What don't I look marvelous? You go, you're fucking riddled with insecurity to the point of like
I do find
neurosis.
it quite sad.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's
I know
not
it's self-inflicted, but that's a little bit.
And especially at that point, you go, what happens when you're and you've got all this shit inside you, and you're fucked. You do not answer. You're speeding up your future. Like problems are going to amass so badly that you can't. If you're like this when you're 30, what are you going to be like when you're just going to look like a fucking monster?
It's sort of. I mean, I know they're very different. I don't want to lump all things together, but I have the same sort of feeling of sadness of like when you see someone who's got. Or you hear about people who have eating disorders, and they can't. We had I don't this is sort of someone else's thing, but at an old job I worked, there was a girl who had quite obviously had an eating disorder. She went from being very healthy looking to very skeletal, and it was so sad because it was one of those things of. It was almost that thing of you, Theo, talking about the old man. It was just how do you say something to this, and what do you do to this? And there were I was sort of privy to only very loosely some conversations amongst management. This is when I worked in a shop, and there was some talk about because obviously again there's a duty of care that your staff, your employee, can we have a conversation with her about should we get but that's the problem is like but there was always that treading one. You're thinking, God, if we say to someone perhaps you ought to take some time off, what does that do to them? When you say, and because that there was a concern, they were thinking because I think they'd sought guidance on it, and it was something that they was like, look, let's just try and work this out as and when we can, that if we say to her, look, you look you're unwell. I've no idea how you would phrase this to someone.
Anything you start to say is immediately wrong.
You know what I mean? But then is she then going to misinterpret that of like, oh, I look disgusting. I need
they're
to
laughing
eat
at
even
me,
less.
sort of,
yeah, exactly. And then there was one time it was such a kind of despair snatched immediately from what seemed like a triumph, where I think someone had got like KFC in. And they deliberately bought slightly more, and they got her to try a little, and she ate the wing, and everyone was like, "Oh yes, but slowly, catchy monkey. We might just help her realise that there's nothing. You don't want to eat KFC, of course, but there's nothing wrong with having.
Speak for yourself. I'm missing it, man.
You know what I mean? But just like a little, a wing of chicken is not going to. But then she ate it, and she said it was, she said about how delicious it was and everything, and it was just this little
bullshit.
And then, it was just. But then she said, I'm gonna have to spend a couple of more hours on the treadmill tonight, and it was like, she left she did leave the job, but essentially the word was that from her parents were going to help her.
Your empathy does not help there at all. It does nothing. It helps.
Do you know what I mean?
That's a pure psychology thing. You can't go in there with you're nicer and go, hey, what about? Because it's like trying to grab somebody with a stick. You just push them away. You just every time you touch it, it just goes further away.
It's obsessive compulsive disorder, and it's an addiction. Kind of, it's a sort of addiction, and you can't. Unfortunately, with these things, you can't force people to get help. in that circumstance. They have to do it for themselves, and that's really difficult. This is why these addictions and the obsessive compulsive disorders are so difficult to treat, because the person actually has to do it. You can't force treatment on them.
Well, because it's so deeply embedded in the neurology that any words, they're just bouncing off. They're doing nothing. Yeah. It's right in the synapses of how your brain functions and how your neurosis in your synapses of your brain is set up. It's going, oh, do you think this and that? It's nothing. They've heard that a million times. Yeah. If anything, like I said, it could make it worse. All their
and they're very good at lying as well. These,
well, that's what when you said she ate it,
lie about not doing drugs.
When you said she ate the chicken wing, and I thought you were going to say, oh, she's really talking about, oh, how lovely it is and how nice. I thought, is that the over exaggerating to sort of look? I'm doing what you want me to do.
I wasn't there when it happened, so I was just told. Everyone said, oh, look, we thought so much, and then she said, because basically she'd have like half an apple for lunch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Well, it's very sad.
I knew somebody with dancing. She said that in the dance school, people would eat an apple and then put a cotton wool bud in between each bite to sort of pad the stomach out. Like, I thought, oh God, that's mental.
I knew someone at dance college, and they said the same thing. They were like, your homework this week is to not eat for 3 days.
Oh God.
And they're just like, okay. And she was like, she just didn't eat. She wasn't big. She was like, let's say, she was smallish, she was petite, but she was in kind of normal size-ish, for a lady. She had hips, a bit of hips and a bit of curves. She's a nice looking girl. But I'm just saying she was normal size.
I was going to say, she need a moment here, Charles.
I've got hips. He's only got hips. I can't eat for 6 weeks.
No, but she wasn't like skinny thin. They were constantly going on about her that she was a fat bitch and needs to lose weight. And I'm like, she passed out. She got to the point where she was passing out a lot due to lack of food, and she'd just be like in the kitchen and stuff, or like pottering around the flat, and she'd just go and pass out.
Yeah. A friend of mine, she used to work in a model booking agency, and she said one day, I think there was a load of the models in there, and the boss basically got her, because she worked behind the desk and everything, got to stand up and basically say, you all need to if you don't diet properly and exercise, you'll have an arse as big as hers. Made her turn around like this, look at this pig.
Look at this fat pig.
Yeah, not actually not a pig at all.
Just probably a regular size, normal looking person.
She had a great figure. She just, you wouldn't ever look at her and go, oh, this is someone who could do with losing even just a teeny bit of weight. Just just someone who's naturally very exactly. But you know what I mean?
Girl.
All right, Charles. It's going to burst into that. All I want to do is do it bigger. So anyway, but it was just fucking hell! How do you do? It's a bit like that thing you're saying, in the Channel Islands, they can just fire people. Imagine just saying, you've got to lose weight, otherwise you'll be as fat as this person, in the office. Not just you'll be fat as, whatever celebrities mocked for being fat, and not that that's necessarily better, but in the working environment.
That person there, that specific look at person there.
Or you, turn around, I want to show her something, right?
Show them what a pig looks like, kind of
show what an ugly, disgusting, ugly
can
human
you make a pig noise?
That was what Jack D said. Was he went to, I think it was Weight Watchers, and he said they're so supportive when when you lose weight, and there was you lose it under here first, don't you? He said, but my God, if you put on even half a pound, they turn. They're like, look at him, you put on half a pound, he's a pig. We've got a pig, ladies and gentlemen. They will start chanting, pig, pig.
Put this pig nose on and fluff it.
Yeah.
You get down on your hands and knees and you scurry out of here now. Yeah,
I got some straw. Yeah.
Oh dear.
Can we lighten this up? Have we got any sort of in other news sort of subjects?
I thought we kicked off with my oh, sorry, I just punched my mic. Sorry, Kerem. My Star Trek story about people sending fake papers about breaking warp 10 was quite good in other news.
Which is really interesting, because that is literally fake news, and this is how these bullshit studies and these bullshit scientists and these weird theories are that muddy the waters of actual research and actual facts and truth. These are how this come about, because there is no peer review. You just pay money, and then all of a sudden you can just have this study that says whatever, oranges make your head explode, is now the same as like Newtonian physics. You know what I mean? They're now on the same level because they're both appearing on this website.
But then you've got the computer, the internet, which is sort of helping them by filtering out. We want to give you what you want to see. Your brain is set up to see what it wants to see, and we're just sort of helping that along by filtering everything out that you don't want to see, i.e., facts. So then it speeds everything up.
I do have this is that thing I sort of stole from that other podcast I listened to, the Ralph Report, about how I told you guys in America there were these rich celebrities paying to get their kids into college, by faking their exam, and there were two, Lori Loughlin, who's an actress, and her husband Massimo Giannulli, who's a fashion house owner, whatever. And they were saying, no, we're not guilty, basically just thinking they could buy their way out of it. They refused to take the plea bargain.
William H. Macy and all that.
But
you said there was one couple that ain't saying sorry, sort of thing.
But now in a moment of brief victory, they have pleaded guilty.
Right at the last second, just before.
Yes. As the axe was sharp.
Well, I hope the axe is now higher than it would have been before if you had just said.
They're
sorry.
saying, unfortunately, the problem is that because of they're now trying to say that going to actual jail would be difficult because of the coronavirus.
To run?
No, because of coronavirus and
cruel and unusual punishment or whatever, because of
Well, didn't Trump's mate? He got out, didn't he? One of Trump's lot got out over that.
Probably, yeah. Well, Takeshi 6ix9ine, everyone's favourite rapper. Got out.
Who's the bloody hell? Who's the one? Manafort? No, who's?
No, he snitched. He snitched. Didn't he?
Yeah.
It was the guy that snitched.
6ix9ine. Yeah, he absolutely snitched on the Bloods.
Him, right? Yeah.
Bloods and or the Crips.
Who's one of the Trump ones that went down? He lied to the FBI and all that.
I think that was Manafort, wasn't it?
Is that Manafort? Or
did he go to jail?
It's hard to narrow down.
Flynn.
Yeah.
But I think
Flynn. That's Flynn, isn't it? The one. Flynn's been in the news recently, I think.
Yeah. So he's got out because they said, he's go back to his house. He's got to stay in his house with his wife.
I think
and
that's
his kids.
maybe Manafort. Yeah, because
I think it was Manafort. But he's playing because of the corona thing, and they looked at there's nobody in that prison there's one case of coronavirus, and then you look at the sort of state prisons where there's like hundreds of people that ain't got, and they have got coronavirus, and no one's getting out over that.
Yeah, but that just clears room for them, doesn't it? That's all. That'll just help drop the numbers.
I love he hasn't pardoned. He could pardon all those people, and he just hasn't. And they've shown they've shown him proper loyalty. Like a lot of these guys kept their mouths shut. Some did do plea bargains, and some did.
Yeah, but to Trump, I've got my thing out of you. Now you're gone. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
You can't do anything for me.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, what you said. You're a loser. You got caught. You're a loser.
Yeah,
that's what he said. That's literally
what he said. I don't like the people who get caught.
Yeah, I like people who don't get caught.
That's what he said about John McCain, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Never mind that John McCain, because he was the son of an admiral, the Vietnamese offered him an earlier release, as part of I think as a prisoner exchange perhaps, or possibly just as an attempt, as a kind of gesture of goodwill. And he's, but he wouldn't go early. He would wait, he would wait his turn, as it were, to be released. But somehow Trump still spins that into he's basically a coward and a failure.
Dickhead, just like idiot.
You're like, sure, whatever. It's like there's no you can't beat him.
To close off, have we got any sort of in other light entertainment news?
I don't know about light entertainment news, but we were saying about we were hitting refresh on whether Dominic Cummings is going to get fired.
Yeah.
This is now recording on the 24th of May, I beg your pardon.
I don't know who Dominic Cummings is.
So do you remember who Alistair Campbell was?
He was the one, a spin guy.
Yeah.
Yes,
He's a
Tony
spin.
Blair.
He was a Tony Blair spin. So this is he is basically, for want of a better thing, Boris Johnson's spin doctor. But he also seemingly has a little more input on policy.
Right. Yeah, he's the chief advisor, chief campaign guy, chief media dude, chief advisor. He's like his number one guy.
And what's he done?
So he drove to his. Now I read this and I thought that's not totally unreasonable. However, there has been another development. So
there's been loads of lies. Everything he said is a lie, basically.
So he's a sort of assistant to our Prime Minister.
Yeah. He's power behind the throne, I suppose we could say. So he was showing mild symptoms of coronavirus. His wife also had coronavirus, and what they decided to do was to take, because they were concerned that if they both got very ill very suddenly, there would be no one to care for their young children. So they decided to drive to his or her parents, or his parents?
I think it's his parents. It was the day he was seen running. Basically, the day Boris went to hospital, I think. There was footage of him going into number 10 and literally running out of number 10 about half an hour later with like a couple of files in his hand. He just sprinted out, jumped on his bike.
Oh, was that what
yeah,
was?
That's the
I had seen that footage. Okay,
and he went,
fine.
And people were like, where the fuck is he going? Like, what? Like, that's a bit weird. The number one
he knows the missiles are en route from Russia.
Just like literally
3-minute warning.
terror on his face. Flees the building with files going, and like money, a suitcase of money and money floating around. Yeah.
I love that we're laughing about the possibility of nuclear
jewels hanging out of the suitcase.
Yeah, genuine drugs and stuff flying about.
The Great Seal of England.
A vase under it.
So he sort of did. He ran and fled, and there was a big image, and people were like, and it turns out that he effectively, he did break lockdown and fled. He knew his wife was exhibiting symptoms. He, I think, later tested positive, and then they decided, knowing this, to drive. They said 320-mile round trip, so 160 miles to his parents' house to quarantine, breaking the curfew, breaking the
They didn't give
lockdown.
a shit.
But he was one of the chief people in charge of bringing in the lockdown, and this was a couple of months ago when this was at its height, and people, they were demanding people, if you go outside, you will be arrested, you will do this, we will fine you, and then he was flouting this. And then it turns out as well, it also was said that he was approached by the police and questioned by the police over this. Number 10 said absolutely not. He's not been questioned by the police. The police issued a statement saying, yes, we did question him. And they said, no. And they are now in an argument with the police, saying that the police are lying. And this is all a liberal lefty plot to undermine Brexit and the...
What's happening with Brexit? When's that line drawn? Is it...
December, isn't it? I think this year. Because I think it worked that they basically the 31st of December last year, when things seemed so nice and rosy and Brexit was all we were worried about. We were just worried about the exchange rate on our euros, and so then it meant a year to. So we've essentially left, but this is the transition period to finalise the deal. I believe that's correct, but frankly, who knows what the fuck with Brexit?
No.
So
that's why they wanted confusion and fear. Just go for it,
and we're heading to a no deal now on top of this, just because they can kind of get away with no deal now, I feel, really.
Because I suppose you can say, well, the economy because of coronavirus,
it's tanked anyway. You're not going to notice another dip, in the GDP.
I mean, I suppose at least everyone else will be fucked, so we won't look as bad by comparison.
Just stick it on, get Noel Edmonds out. Deal or no deal? Let's just go with that base. Deal or no deal? Do you want
that's the language, isn't it?
It's just come down to that. Do you want the red box or do you want the blue box?
But with Dominic Cummings though, he was a senior advisor and he was very hypocritical in pushing this. It's the hypocrisy because he's pushing it, for everyone except for him, and he's been flouting these lockdown laws, and then he's been lying about it, and he's covering it up. His wife was writing a blog for The Spectator. And they were posting old photos. She said, "Oh, we're in our London house here." God. She wasn't. She lying, doing a daily blog about her lockdown experience, and it was all lies. And they were posting old photos up and stuff.
Well, that's what
them in London.
I said a few podcasts ago about the thing that came out in America, where all these people were going online and say everything's fine. Meanwhile, they were literally selling their stocks and shares and buying shares in medical equipment. And then saying, "Well, we didn't know," and all this sort of stuff. And it's not our fault. We got lots of shares and lots of things. Just randomly happened to sell out all our stock after meetings and then buy medical stock. Just this thing of just the corruption's just being allowed to happen, and it's not corruption in the hundreds of thousands, it's trillions of pounds and billions of pounds, and then they'll slag off teachers and people at schools and unemployment benefit for a few quid when trillions are going missing. And as I said,
they're literally complaining about people getting money to buy food. And then they're letting off like
food banks and billionaires saying we can't be out of work for a month. Whereas what again? 10 decades of billionaire status. Where did the fucking profits go? You can't have a handout. But as you said before, what was I saying? He said there is socialism. And he said there's capitalism for the poor and socialism for the rich. They get all the tax breaks. They get all the money. They get all the benefits. There's literally fucking benefits. They're on benefits. They're constantly on benefits. They have law firms constantly working for them to get those handouts from the government. Socialism exists for rich people, but you're not allowed for poor.
the money's being funneled up instead of down.
Yeah. Oh god. But then again, even them, like there's we've had a month off, and we haven't got any money. We've been working as billionaires for 10 years, but we haven't got any profit. We haven't got anything. We need help. We need more money. Anyway, come on, end on quickly. End on something. Kerem's probably got a Turkish coffee waiting for him in the kitchen. Anything nice? Anything happening?
I'm carrying on with gainful employment.
Charles is working 24 hours a day.
Charles got nothing
on
to
this
do.
script.
He's just slacker.
He's working on this script full 24 hours a day. Get this script sorted.
Yeah.
And what are you up to, Andrew? Anything? You still working on your zombie? Oh no, you finished your zombie script.
Well, I finished the first draft of the zombie alien creature.
There's aliens as well.
Yeah, there's aliens in it as well. It's a
zombies are no
piece.
threat. I never understood. They're no threat. Just walk away.
No, they're just but that's the thing in this. They're sort of cannon fodder for the aliens. They just use them to kill kill as many people as possible and absorb the shots.
Sort of like politicians and soldiers, really.
But you're quite like But you're quite like this because it does. You've said before. You want a zombie film that starts off with the invasion.
Yeah.
So this is it. This is them trying to fight it. It's a philosophical piece, as I say. It's a sequel.
So you took my idea and wrote a script about it.
No.
Or did it exist before me?
It existed before you, I'm afraid to say. But yeah, so this is the sequel to the other film that's coming out Christmas called Creatures. We thought long and hard about the title, and then so I've got to wait for the notes because we're waiting for the executive producer to come back. So his notes could come back in a month, or they could come back. I could switch my phone back on and see an email saying, "Okay, here are my notes for draft 2. Can I have it next week?" And then I've also got to work on a heist film and possibly something else. This is in between having a job, so I've suddenly gone from sitting about being drunk all 24/7 to now having loads of work to do. But that's fine. It's better to be the way.
Cool. Your wrist's hurting you.
Exactly.
Your wrist had gone flat and plump, and now it's
that certainly happened. No, the wrists were being
we'll end on fat, plump wrists. I think that tells you everything you need to know about the show.
I'm going to end on speaking of boozing, I'm going to end on another Tommy Cooper joke because the world needs Tommy Cooper.
Yeah.
Now more than ever. Yeah,
exactly. So I'm on the all whiskey diet. I've lost 3 days already.
Hang on. I'm on the all whiskey diet.
Yeah, I've lost three days already.
Oh right. Yeah. Okay. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Have that fat wrist and Tommy Cooper.
Yeah.
That's the end of the show.
If you're in a good mood, look up Tommy Cooper jokes.
Yeah. But do remember, your government does not care about you.
Yeah.
Let's end on that. What does he say in V? What does he say? And long live London, or God save London. What does he say? The character in V, V for Dan Vendetta.
Yeah.
God save London. The Big Brother sort of news reporter, the news guy in V for Vendetta, and at the end of every show he says "Long live London" or something like that. Oh come on!
I got the comic upstairs actually. The comics.
Big Charles, right?
Original content. It's gone for the original content. And at the end, what does he say?
It's north. What do they call it? Nordfire.
What's that? Is that the channel?
That's the sort of ideology, isn't it? Well,
anyway, whatever he says at that's what I'm saying. So we'll leave it there.
I mean, that was clear as mud as always.
It's a decent film. It's a decent film.
Cheerio and
goodbye.
Cool. Bye everyone.
Bye.